Okay, welcome to the decision session for the Executive Member for the Environment and Climate Change. Apologies that we are a little delayed today. As ever, IT is fantastic when it just doesn't work smoothly. So there's been a few glitches, but we've started now. So welcome to the meeting. Going through the agenda, declarations of interest. I have no declarations of interest. On to the minutes. The minutes have been approved. We then go into public participation. The IT issues are due mainly to a couple of the public participants. So we're changing the order around a little. So the first public participant is Councillor Callum Taylor. Welcome, Callum. Can you hear us?
Afternoon, Councillor Widdowson. Yeah, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Councillor Taylor. So you know the drill. You've got 3 minutes. If you would like to start now, that would be lovely.
Thank you. I spoke on an item regarding the Council's weed control programme back in October 2019, I think. So I picked this item up with interest in the hope that the Lib Dem Green administration will be able to show a meaningful level of progress. Weed control does not grab the headlines like other issues do. However, it's a core service that matters to residents all over York who care about the street scene and the environment. Sadly, having read the report, supporting documents and checked out some of the wider reading it refers to, it's left me feeling a bit confused and disappointed. I say this for a few reasons. Firstly, and let's deal with the fish in the barrel now, we have the bizarre spectacle of councillors and staff members of the apparently empowered Green Party lauding it up in the media and on Facebook, criticising the report's findings. The Greens are equally responsible for what's on the table here. Nowhere on the table nowhere in the paper does it say Liberal, Democrat or Green. It's a paper decided by a representative of their coalition's executive. Next, there is an awkward gap between the report's recommendations and how the council have tried to communicate this in the media. A York Mix article covering this says, and I quote, Executive Member for the Environment and Climate Change, Councillor Paula Widdowson said, we want to understand the steps we need to take, and this report outlines how we can tackle weed growth in the most sustainable and environmentally friendly way possible, supporting our drive to a cleaner and greener city. But the cold reality is that the council are continuing to use glyphosate in the vast majority of cases. It's dismissed more environmentally friendly methods following half-hearted trials and other ideas it hasn't properly looked at least judging by the lack of information in the paper. Nice words are not policy. The council should just tell it like it is, and to be something, i.e. council that prioritises greener practices, but it's not doing it here. Most importantly though, the main decision here, which is the renewal of the weed control contract, gets little meaningful attention. Just like back in 2019, there's sadly next to no useful information which deals with the private contractor's performance. There's just the claim that the programme under this contractor has been broadly successful recently. I suppose we're just meant to take the council's word for it, but given the Lib Dem Green administration's arrogant attitude to public money, it's hard to have confidence in this. There's also no useful insight on whether we have shopped around or will shop
20 seconds, Councillor Taylor.
To see if there's other contractors out there who can deliver better value for money, or even if bringing it back in-house will do that. These points may well be addressed verbally in the meeting, but the details should be in the paper. It feels like rather than meaningful lessons have been learned since 2 years ago, the administration is just continuing with more of the same principal method for weed control and the same lack of detail.
Councillor Taylor, can I ask you to wind up, please?
Yeah, thank you.
Many thanks.
But, you know,
you're over your 3 minutes, Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, I've said my bit.
So many thanks.
The points.
We are doing. So many thanks for your comments, and they will be taken into consideration. So our next speaker is Councillor Christian Vassy. Christian, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Absolutely, much clearer than Callum. So many thanks. Your IT is obviously working best.
Thank you.
So you know the drill. Over to you for 3 minutes.
Thank you. In July 2019, full council voted unanimously to approve action to protect pollinators. We voted, all of us, to protect and enhance habitat for bees and to cut the use of pesticides that harm pollinators. Like everyone else across York, the council has a duty to protect biodiversity for its own sake and because we humans depend on pollinators for our survival. I'm pleased that last year the administration approved a pollinator strategy. As we decide the future maintenance of our verges, urban infrastructure and open spaces, let's put that strategy to work. Yes, local government finances are under pressure, as usual, but we cannot shrink before difficult challenges. We must, I suggest, be innovative and learn from best practice. More than 80 other local UK councils, including Hackney, Glastonbury, Brighton, Doncaster, Bristol, Guildford, Chichester, Folkestone, Chelmsford and Trafford have already committed to end pesticide use. Many other European nations have now banned the non-agricultural use of pesticides. So how can we reduce our local authorities' dependence on pesticides? I am pleased that we will work with PAN, the Pesticide Action Network. I know that you, Executive Member, have read the PAN Guide for Cutting Herbicide Use. I welcome that. Instead of spraying pesticides, let's look to use alternatives, including weed brushes and thermal lances. These mechanical solutions are used to control weeds in councils such as Newport, Edinburgh, Nottingham and Chorley. We also know that rapidly removing leaf litter can help, and that rubberized asphalts, like the ones laid in last summer in Weldrake, Water Lane and Copmanthorpe, prevent freeze-thaw cracking, reducing potholing and denying a habitat for weeds. Regarding renewing the contract, whoever we pick to manage weeds on our urban infrastructure, let us set in the contract clear annual pesticide reduction targets to incentivize them to innovate with us. To manage costs, let's look at joint procurement possibilities with other organisations and local authorities. Let's be creative. Let's raise the bar rather than shrinking our ambitions to limbo under it. And lastly, please let's publish the trials we are already conducting and the changes we're implementing to enable others to peer review what we're doing and to help us improve. There are no doubt many good things we're now doing. We need to communicate those. There is plenty of goodwill across York. Let's make use of it. If we need volunteers to help us, let's ask for them. We are the conscience of this city. Let this council do the right thing so that our children and their children can be proud of us. Let's ditch pesticides and protect pollinators. Thank you, Chair.
Many thanks, Councillor Vassey. Your thoughts are taken into account and they are already, as you know, a lot of what you're saying is already under consideration. So I must take the rap for some of it not being communicated as clearly as it could be. So many thanks.
Thank you, Chair.
So we are on to our third speaker, Robert Gordon. Robert, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, thank you.
Oh gosh, you're very loud and clear. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Don't worry, that's absolutely fine. You've heard the other two speakers, so as you know, you have 3 minutes, starting now.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor, and thank you to the Council and Councillors who have been working on this important issue, and thank you to Councillor Vassey for his thought-out comments before me. My name is Robert Gordon, and I'm a local resident and Green Party member. Weed management is obviously an important issue to some residents, but how we manage these weeds is critical as it has the potential to threaten vital ecosystems and the health of people. We are facing an unprecedented climate and ecological emergency, and the continued use of 460 litres of glyphosate each year by the City of York Council and contractors we hire has alarming repercussions for insects, small animals and even amphibians and watercourses. The latter tends to happen when spraying occurs and reaches watercourses via runoff from spraying close to roads and or drains. Alongside harming ecosystems, of course, we threaten vital pollinators that support the food systems upon which we depend. In 2019, York Greens passed a council motion to this effect, which was followed promptly by a council pollinator strategy last year. I was pleased to see that this report recommends a new contract of only 2 years in light of the need to review our current excessive use of glyphosate. Nonetheless, this contract accounts for approximately only half of spraying undertaken in the City of York Council area, as council staff do much of it in-house. Therefore, I would urge the Council to work with experts and organisations like the Pesticide Action Network to look at immediately replacing spraying undertaken by Council staff with manual cutting, mechanical or heating methods, many of those described by Councillor Vassie before me. Perhaps we could also learn from the trials mentioned done in local authorities elsewhere. Manual methods such as strimming would be particularly effective where we currently spray around lampposts, street signs and benches. In this way, we can move closer to using glyphosate only in exceptional circumstances. In the meantime, however, I would strongly urge the executive member for the environment to consider reducing the number of applications per year from 3 down to 2, as many other local authorities do, and as is recognised in an annex of the report. This is a quick win we can take now to save money and reduce our impact on the environment. Savings from reducing the applications could potentially then be used to fund new infrastructure and equipment required for alternative methods of weed management. Thank you, Councillor, for letting me speak on this important topic.
Perfect, Robert. I was just about to give you the 30-second update. Many thanks for your thoughts, and they will be taken into account. And as you know, from the comments that I've made to the other 2 speakers, some of this is already happening, and it's my lack of clarity within the report. So we do need to get the message out. We are doing an awful lot already. Many thanks for your thoughts. Unfortunately, our final speaker...
Chair, it's Richard Jackson here. Sorry, last minute, we've managed to get Councillor Waters in. Okay. Just bear with me. Sorry about that. It's very, very last minute. Okay. So Councillor Waters is now in the room and ready to speak.
Right.
Perfect. Councillor Waters, I believe you were a little bit busy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. A few technical problems.
Don't worry, it happens to the best. Happens to the best of us. So right. You've done this 101 times before, so you know the drill. It's 30 minutes, and I'll give you a 30-second. Sorry, it's 3 minutes, and I will give you a 30-second.
I'll have to write a bit more if it's 30 minutes.
No, only 3. I'm sure that you will be succinct, and I'll give you a 30-second warning. Are you okay?
Right.
Do you want to start now?
Well, the continuing place supply weed control. I think the trials that have been carried out reinforce that need. However, that use.
Councillor Waters, I am really, really struggling to hear you. I'm hearing about every 4th or 5th word.
Right.
So I don't know whether you need to shout louder, and we'll start again.
Okay, I'll try again.
Okay.
Just to make clear at the outset, I accept the need to continue the use of glyphosate-based weed control, and I think the trials that have carried out will enforce that need. However, that usage has, as I've highlighted many times, to be at the lowest levels possible and applied in a controlled, sensible manner. What is now proposed is an extension to the same old failed, uncontrolled weed killer spraying that officers have presented over the past. Basis, this and other matters usually ignored by all concerned. Summary, I'd ask the executive member to completely disregard what is in front of you today and give the following instructions to officers. Bring the whole weed treatment function back in-house under direct member control, no external contractors. In the case of hard surface weed control, stick to the use of glyphosate. More effective timing formulation, purely applied by pedestrian means, knapsack or controlled droplet application. Reduce
again, Councillor Waters, you're going to really have to speak up. You keep cracking up. So the first bit I got was bring it in-house. The second bit was put it on backpacks.
Yeah.
Right, okay. You're clear again now. Fab.
Reduce to 2 treatments a year to cut chemical use. 2 treatments carried out accurately and with care should suffice. Integrate street cleaning services with this programme. If road edges, paths and the like had debris removed properly, there would be less opportunity for weeds to grow. But it's in the current public realm spraying operation that a very visible difference can be made. Many obstacles that are currently sprayed, leaving the hideous brown circles in verges, supposedly to aid grass cutting, can be easily left and just trimmed around twice a year. A huge reduction in weed killer used. As I've said many times, how many of the obstacles in verges or sign poles where the sign could be set on a lamppost instead, removing the obstacle? It's annoying to the greens impractical.
If you can hear me, Councillor Vassey, you've got, sorry, Councillor Waters, you've got 30 seconds.
It's annoying to learn of the Greens' tough impractical ban glyphosate calls without practical alternatives being explored. Transport portfolio holder could easily initiate a street clutter removal programme, but is seemingly content with the current situation of weed killer being used needlessly around obstacles. The public realm spraying on verges was stopped across the Osborwick and Derwent ward some years ago by me after the mess that was created. If you're not going to integrate street cleaning systems and press ahead with contractors blasting weed killer off the back of quad bikes in all directions...
Okay, we're coming to the end, Councillor Waters. I've given you over another minute more.
Then I want my ward excluded and the parish councils work their own tightly controlled arrangements with contractors. Apologies, it's very bit difficult.
It has, but many thanks for your input. Your thoughts will be taken into account within our discussion. Many thanks.
Thanks.
Okay, so we've done public participation and we've heard all of the thoughts from the interested parties. So we're now into the weed treatment report. So can I ask Ben for you to introduce the report and take me through it, please? Or is it James? Have I got it the wrong way around?
It's all right. I'll just do a very quick introduction.
Okay.
So as you're aware, the current contract has expired, and as Councillor Waters rightly identifies, weed treatment is a mixture of in-house and external contractor. And Dave and Ben will take you through the report. I think just in response to the comments that have been made, just to reassure Councillor Taylor that in paragraph 30 we do talk about tendering the service. We're not just awarding it to existing contractors, or it will go out to the market to ensure we achieve value for money. The report does talk about reductions in treatments, reductions in areas to be treated, and the trials that we've undertaken and the success or not of those trials, which I'm sure Dave will talk about, and looks at other options, including hot foam and manual treatments, but they have their own environmental impacts or cost impacts, as the report outlines. So I'll let Dave take you through the details of that.
Thank you. Just a point of clarity before I go into the report. The 2019 weed contractor failed to meet the standards that we set and aspired to. They were a new contractor that year, and it did not work. And so they withdrew from the contract, and the 2020 and 2021 contractor was a different person or a different entity from the bad year we had in 2019. And as James has just said, that contract has now expired. And so, depending on the guidance we get today, we'll be going to the market for a new contract. Just turn to report. For me, I appreciate and respect people's views that it does divide opinion quite markedly. And to me, this is a sort of a journey. We've started out on a journey. The authorities taken notice of the environmental concerns people have expressed through, and is recognised in the pollinator strategy. And as officers, we tried to explore a variety of options last year. Time was incredibly tight and precious with everything else that's going on at the moment, and existing other council commitments. So we were able to carry out some trials, which has informed the debate, but I don't think it's sort of ended the debate. And so I really present this report as a journey. My recommendation is that we continue to use glyphosate for the next 2 years, with an option to slightly extend if we need to, and to use the next 2 years to further explore options. People have referred to those in the debate earlier, in the public session earlier, and the report also recognises them. Options create choices, but they also create costs. And under the council's rules, if we do need to change something, we probably need to bid for additional money to fund that. So, for example, strimming's been mentioned, hot lances have been mentioned. Those are more labour intensive than our current arrangements. Moving from a quad bike contract to a pedestrian contract, external or internal service, is going to cost more. There's more timely, and therefore is likely to cost more. So whatever changes come, there may well be a cost consequence of them. In the meantime, so this year we did test a couple of other different chemicals. Last year, sorry. We had the assistance of an outside consultant to oversee that, and we found none of the different chemicals performed as well as glyphosate. And the chemicals themselves had different potential health risks or operator risks, particularly the use of a vinegar solution, which is quite strong. So we've tried. So the first trial we did was in the local streets, and then we withdrew that to Hazel Court Depot, partly reflecting an error that the contractor had sprayed the second spray completely with glyphosate, but also it was we felt a safer environment in which to trial different chemicals on the city streets. I think there's probably more to explore, but I shall stop there, and if I've missed anything, Ben, please come in, and Paul, if you've got any questions, please ask.
Ben, do you have anything else to add?
Of great importance, Chair. I mean, obviously the report does reflect everything that has gone on over the past year and the trials. The recommendations in the report have been formed on the basis of the trials, and also keeping abreast of what's actually happening within the wider market. So more than happy to answer any questions or queries that you might have.
Okay, perfect. I've got a few questions, but I've just got an overall comment to start with. Can I just thank you both for your hard work in this area? It's often overlooked. It's often taken for granted. During the 2019 issues that we had, Dave, as you recognise with the contractor, I was personally receiving around 40 emails a week from very, very, very cross residents and very cross businesses. And I am very aware that we had to increase the spend on pavement and roads because of the damage that was caused. So it is an issue. We do need to control weeds. I'm glad to hear through our speakers that there is a recognition that we have to control them. How we do it and the way we do it is what we're looking at. And at the moment, the recommended area is for glyphosate. So what we'll do at the end of my questions is we'll go through the recommendations, but I just have a few questions just for some clarity. Is that okay? Yep, I'm not sure which one of you needs to answer them, so please, whichever is most expert, help me. So in paragraph 14, I just want the clarity on this. In paragraph 14, we've said within the report that we've had some external support during the previous trials, and this is expert support. Can you confirm that that's the case?
Yes, through my predecessor, my ex-colleague Russell Stone, we secured the assistance of a consultant via the Amenity Forum, who helped to formulate the trials and carried out a site visit with me in mid-May.
That is fantastic. So we've had external expert support in this. It's not our opinions, so that is great. That's all I needed to hear. So next, the external advisor, as you're saying, stated that the alternative treatments were less successful, and I know we had more complaints from residents in those areas. Again, Dave, can you just confirm that that was the case?
So yes, short answer to that one, yes.
No, well, I just want it on public record, because sometimes within the length of a report, you miss some of the details. So I just want to make sure that we draw out why our thinking is along these lines.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say as well, Councillor, that within Annex 1 of the report, which are photographs that Dave captured from the trial at the depot, you can see visually the different impact of the different products that were used. So not only is it, within the report, there's actually visual representation of the differences.
Absolutely, but we also did the trials in situ, so I just want to make sure that we've got that into people's knowledge. So the next question I've got is, and again, I just need confirmation that I'm interpreting this correctly. So there've been a number of comments from all of our speakers about manual weeding, and I know that you answered a little bit of it, Dave, earlier in your opening remarks. In paragraphs 41 to 43 in the report, it states that manual weeding, given our 450 miles of highway, pavement, roundabouts, refuges, all the rest of it, could cost upwards of £100,000. And if it was one person, it could take 32 weeks. So let's say it's half a dozen people, you're looking at over a month each time to complete that. One, I'd like you to confirm that I've read that correctly. And secondly, I'd like you to just say, have we committed to reviewing the viability of putting some more manual work in, or using our road sweepers, or whatever other mechanisms we've got to doing more?
So the figures quoted are based on our estimate of how fast you can walk and weed, if I want to better phrase. And I would probably like to reflect on that more as when you come back to your recommendations. And if you may wish to, which I think your part B really, the staff we have is currently stretched to start with, and Ben's a better place to comment on availability or flexibility within that. So if we take our existing staff and redirect them, something else isn't going to happen. So that we don't have that spare capacity just to drop people onto doing this, particularly during the peak summer months when obviously things like there's more people, so there's more litter to collect, and the grass cutting team are out grass cutting.
Okay, that's fine. So I'll take that as I have read that correctly. It would be more labour intensive and it would cost more money. So this is a question that isn't in the report, but it was something that came through a particular councillor. So I just want to make sure that I know we've had a conversation about it in the background, but I just want to make sure that I'm interpreting it correctly. Somebody, one of the councillors, has asked us to use diamond glyphosate. Now, my understanding is that substance, that really high level of substance, is banned from general highway use and can only be used on railways and a very, 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 very specific use because it is so powerful. Again, can you confirm whether I've got that correct or not?
Yes, you have. Well, I'm not sure it's the word banned, but it's the other way around. It's things are permitted.
Sorry.
It's not a permitted use that I'm aware of on the general highway arrangements that we use. The curb lines, the roundabout. Yeah, there are. It is permitted in certain instances, but the general highway use, which is principally the service, it's not permitted.
Okay, bear with me, gentlemen, because I've only got a few more comments.
And I'm happy. I'm happy to share that that information with Councillor Waters.
Okay, that's fine. That's lovely. Recommendation 3 that we've got here is talking about a trial for hot foam. Now, I'm slightly concerned about this one because the hot foam is used in other places. I know that it's used in Glastonbury. I think it's used in Brighton. But my concern is that it uses roughly 1,000 litres a day of very hot water. So we've got all the other environmental impacts and we have to buy the kit. I know reading the case study from Glastonbury, they wouldn't give you the cost of what it was, but what they were looking to do was hire out the kit to other places so that they could make the business case for it. They've already made the environmental case. So again, is that your understanding of how the hot foam would work?
Yes, I think, sorry, I'll jump in. I think the report talks about the cost of buying the kit in the report. I can't remember which paragraph it's under now, but I'm sure in the background, Dave or Ben will find that reference for me from memory. It was about 30k. I think in terms of, yes, the process heats water up to a temperature, and obviously to do that in a mobile setting has a carbon impact. I know Ben's spoken to some neighbouring authorities who trialled this and has some experience, so Ben might want to come in and add a bit of context as well.
Yeah, just thanks. It's in section or paragraphs 38 and 39 of the report, Councillor. Yeah, the actual machine has obviously a cost. Plus, obviously, you have to have a van on which to site the equipment. The neighbouring authorities that we spoke to actually found that it became a 2-person operation and not a 1-person operation because of the fact that the machine has to be heated to a minimum of 60 degrees C for the water and the foam to work effectively. The machine that the neighbouring authority uses does use 1,000 litres per day on average, but can be as high as 1,500 litres if it's a heavily soiled or weeded area. So it is something that obviously we are keen to look at, but obviously do recognise, as you've mentioned already, that it does have its own environmental impacts because of the amount of water that method does use.
Right, okay, thank you ever so much for that. So before we get to the recommendations, listening to what the public speaker said and the recommendations in your report, are we able to work with other organisations on future trials? So, as you've said, maybe neighbouring authorities on the hot foam, maybe look at manual weeding and other future plans. And for example, the experts I'm thinking about are DEFRA, Yorkshire Wildlife Trust, the Pesticide Action Network, and I know you will know of many others. So can we put a basket of people together that we could work with, rather than making it always DEFRA or always Yorkshire Wildlife Trust et al.? Is that acceptable?
Yep. We can talk to a group of people with views and expertise on this to you know, increase our expertise and how that expertise might be applicable in York.
Okay, so brilliant. So now I'm going to go to the recommendations, and I'm probably only going to alter one of them. So as far as I'm concerned, I approve the continued use of glyphosate based on the treatments as the principal method of weed control. I know you will look at reducing it. I am aware that if we can get it from 3 to 2, it saves us money and everything else. So that's approved. I also approve a 2-year contract, because I know that you've put in, as you did for the last 2 years now, or this year and last year, the KPIs and the measurements, and I know you go around and inspect. So yes, 2-year contract so that we've got continuity, and also we can work with the contractor to see what their thoughts are to improve our system. The final one, which is approve a trial, namely the heat method. What I'd like to do there is if we could alter that. Now, I'm likely to get the form of words wrong, so whoever the democratic officer is, we need to craft a set of words that basically states, I would like us to work with external expert agencies to draw up a plan of best practice that we can trial and implement. And therefore, I would suggest we delay the hot foam trial until we have all this input from the experts and we make the correct choice, whether that's manual, whether that's using road sweepers, whether that's hot foam, whether that's whatever they know. Can we reword that to put that into place? And could you come back to me with a time scale that this is doable by?
Yep. So I think in terms of putting that into the minutes, what we'll commit to is to working with those external agencies and bringing a report back to another decision session about what the trial will be. Mm-hmm. If that's okay with yourself.
All right, so we've agreed 1 and 2 with the idea that we work with people to use less glyphosate because it's the right thing to do, and then you will come back with the trial methodologies. Is that okay? Okay, as I said at the start of this paper, many thanks for this report because it allows us to understand the current situation. And as we always do, we always learn things along the way, and we can create an even better outcome for our residents. So, gentlemen, many thanks for your work in this area. I'm not sure you need to stay for the flooding, but if you wish to stay for the flooding, gentlemen, be my guest. Okay. You're welcome. All right, so the final, oops, I've lost my, there we go. No, the fifth item on the agenda is the Year 5 flood plan update. And I would like to welcome Chris Ashcroft and Steve Ragg. James, are you introducing it or is Steve introducing it?
I'll let Steve. You've probably fed up with hearing my voice. It's a regular update that you receive, as you know.
Absolutely.
But people watching, it's a regular update. I think that's the key thing, and it's to give the programme in York a level of public scrutiny and public visibility that it perhaps otherwise wouldn't get. So that's the purpose of the report. Steve.
Thank you, James. Good afternoon, Councillor, and thank you for having us along to this session again. As James says, this is a regular update that we'll bring quarterly to your review session, and we have Chris Ashcroft from the Environment Agency on the call, and he'll walk us through the Environment Agency's update report, which is Annex 1 of the reports. Shortly, just a couple of things to mention from myself from the covering reports. The Environment Agency are developing and leading on the wide range of the projects within the programme, and I'm pleased to say we're working well together. It's not to say that there haven't been some issues to resolve in terms of the planning process, the delivery phase and getting things on site, but I think it's great to see Chris's team all working really effectively with us on all of those projects. So that's just really a comment from myself. There are some parts of the programme that we are delivering directly ourselves, the main one being the works at Fulford on Germany Beck. That project has been project managed by City of York Council, and the consultants there are working on the design and the approach for that one. And we're in the depths now of a whole load of surveys and information that we need to take what we see as our preferred option through to something that can be put in front of the planners for planning permission. Slightly delayed on that, unfortunately, some issues over some of the species that were found within the watercourse and the way in which we mitigate any impact on them through the design, and also some issues over archaeology and how we work effectively with the heritage down at that location. But that's all work that's ongoing and progressing well, but it has delayed that planning permission submission a little bit. The other one to mention, which only gets a very brief mention in the report, but we have spoke about at previous sessions, is our DEFRA-funded Innovative Flood Resilience Project, which is the piece of work we're looking to get in place by spring this year now. I keep wanting to say next year, but this year now, which will look at the next 5 years and working with North Yorkshire County Council and all the catchment partnerships out there and the national parks and lots of other partners in incentivising natural flood risk management measures across the Swale, the Ure and the Nid catchment. And hopefully that will really give us a really good foothold on improving the resilience across those catchments, and work in concert and together with all the work that Chris and his team are doing there. We've recruited to the project manager role for that project now, which is fantastic. And my new project manager will start at the end of this month on the 31st of January. So that's a really important stage there. But the consultants are working in the background there to develop the business case further. And we're anticipating the project to start in anger from early springtime. So I'll bring further updates on that to the next decision session, probably, Councillor. So with no ado, over to Chris Ashcroft. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. And yeah, I'd just like to reiterate Steve's points about the way that we're working together. I'm really pleased with the way that City of York and my teams are working together. As with any large project, there are often challenges, but we seem to be getting through those really well together. So yeah, just thanks for raising that, Steve, and I wholly agree. I won't read through the report verbatim, but I will just run through some of the very latest, and I'll follow the order of the report. So flood cell B4, as the report says, that is complete. There will be some gate testing in early February that has been communicated to the relevant parts of the council and the local stakeholders. That will require a closure, but it will probably be very short, in the order of a day. Clementhorpe, cell B8, that's progressing very well. The deep soil mixing, which was the very complicated heavy engineering work that was required, that was completed before Christmas. So we're well on target for a finishing in August for Clementhorpe. Cell B10, that's Clifton. Again, that's progressing well. Work is going well with the Sustrans diversion, which is essential to allow us to work on the main embankment. The next phase that we're really going to be looking at Clifton will be tree works. So removal of trees to enable us to complete the works. Obviously, that ties in with our commitment to plant many more trees than we have to remove. Cell B11, so all the glass panels are now installed, as are the floodgates at B11. And on B12, all the glass panels should be in place by the end of this week. Just on B11 and B12, the compound for that is in Merrygate Car Park. We're expecting to be able to dramatically reduce the size of that compound around the end of January, early February. So that will give some spaces back to the council. Bishopthorpe, there's no major issues at all, so that is on target. That's progressing really well. The Foss storage area will be starting back on site very, very shortly there. Again, that is minor works ahead of the main sort of heavy engineering that will follow. Foss barrier, as per the report, yeah, all going very well there. So nothing more to add there. Property flood level resilience. Cell B8, that's ongoing. I think we will have completed 20 properties by the end of January, early February, obviously weather depending. And we've got the vast majority of the properties in that cell signed up and progressing through the legal agreement stage, which is great news. Yeah, the further cells, we have had to re-tender those, but we've had some really good interest. That tender process ends in January, at the end of January, sorry, and we are expecting that to restart in March. And cells F4 and F5, Councillor, we took your recommendations up to speak with the university and we're exploring things with them. I'd just like to touch on Hub as well whilst I'm talking. Unfortunately, we did have to close our hub. Again, our community hub due to the latest COVID rules, but we will reopen that as soon as we can. That's me.
Okay, I'm going to make a few comments that won't be as in-depth as the last one because I understand this area a little bit more. And I would just like to underline the fact that the partnership is now very strong and working extremely well together. So I'm delighted to receive this 5-year flood report. It's clear, it's obvious. Anybody who wants to read the report can see what's going on, absolutely transparent. I'm very pleased with the positive and open relationship that we've developed between ourselves, and the increasing communication with residents is a testament to the good work of both parties and also the support of ward councillors. I'd particularly like to call out Rosie in that one because she is working very hard in that area to make sure everybody that can is taking the personal flood defence offer in hand. So the plan's progressing at pace, and I look forward to the official opening of the Foss barrier. So many thanks for your hard work, and also I'm looking forward to seeing how the natural environment secures York's flood defences into the future. So again, gentlemen, many thanks for your hard work in this area.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're then on to urgent business. I'm not aware of any. So that is the end of the meeting. Many thanks for listening and good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon.